When I first come into the business, I was asked to do an electrical audit. I'm not a sparky, but let's go out there and put a bit of common sense on what we can find and what we can see and what we can do to help prevent someone from being injured. So why do we need to follow the rules is one of the questions I used to ask our guys. Why do we need to follow it, and what is the use of it? And 9 times out of 10 the guy will go, you've got to follow the rules, that's the way it is, isn't it? Isn't that the law? That's what we have to do. How can you sell safety by throwing the legislation up or the regulations and go, you shall do this and we'll dong you over the head, and otherwise if you don't do it we'll punish you? You've got to ask the question, why is it so important to me? Who's got children out there? Put your hands up. This is interactive. Cool. How about grandchildren? Yeah, I've got grandchildren and I've got children, and I've got one that I like to come around and sits on my knee and I talk to her quite a lot, and that's the reason why safety is important. It's your family, it's your friends. Fulton Hogan have 3,500 employees in New Zealand. We have 3,500 families that we have to get our people home to every day. Now, some people are married, some are not married. We're affecting their family lives if something goes wrong. And we're not only in the family lives, they've got mums, dads and grandchildren as well. So that is why safety is important, and that is why we should follow the rules and do what we're meant to do and use a bit of common sense. Because if you don't follow the rules and things go wrong, these are the guys that we're doing it for. Our family, our children. That's why it's important to make sure we do safety the way it is. Because if we don't, and we get it wrong, we can get electrocuted and we can have this effect. Who wants to that? As a manager, that is one thing I do not want to have to come across and go home to someone's family and go, I'm sorry, your son or your daughter got electrocuted. No one wants that. If you've dealt with a fatality before, you do not want to go through this either. So I'd ask you to stick with the rules, stick with what's meant to happen, and follow the procedures and follow process. Lockout, tag-out is a process, and we tell our guys this is the reason why you need to do this. And we go through that. And there's processes there's permits to works, there's registers, and there's red tags and caution tags and locks and everything else through there, and we go through all that. We've got machines that are all highlighted and they're numbered, so we know exactly where all the lockout points are on every fixed machine in Fulton Hogan. We're now moving on to our moving plant as well, because they have electricity. They've got batteries, they've got generators, and they do things that could kill you as well. So we take them through there and we do the training and we isolate machines and show where the lockout tags are. And it can cost you some money, because some of the switches you have you might turn off, but you actually can't put a padlock through it. So you have to go through that process to make sure that we can lock these out. Because people will get into holes and try and get into places like that. Now that can go through, I've come across one of those sites, and I've come across this a couple of times before throughout New Zealand. And you go in, then you have a look at that, and then you go to this where the startup panel is, and there's nothing cut out, there's nothing tagged out, and there's nothing locked out. That guy's just waiting to be cut in half. Kiwis are innovative. They go through and they find things and touch things, and they want to fix things and improve things. But having that sort of thing happen is not on. So the way you can do that is lock out, tag out, which I showed before, or you can put an isolating switch on that, so when he opens that gate up, the whole machine stops. But some of our processes at Fulton Hogan, if we want to shut down a crushing unit, we've got conveyor belts that keep on going. We can stop down that part of the crushing unit, but the rest of the plant needs to keep on going. So there's sections that we had to do. And one of the guys come up to me the other day and says, your lockout, tag-out system, pain in the arse. I says, well, why is that? Explain to me the reason why. He says, because I need some power to actually run a tool or a hand tool. Have you ever heard of a battery drill? Or if you need something else, let's run another cable in there, isolate that, and that is your power source for that particular tool. So there's things that we can do to help the guys do their work, but there are things to do that we can actually keep them safe without being injured. There's some photographs that we had going around the site. There's exposed connectors there. Housekeeping. You go around an office block and have a look and see how many plugs are plugged into each other. We've got tag and test guys down through here. They must see 4, 5 or 6 plugged in, and you go, what the hell have you got here? Because it creates heat, creates energy. And you go and talk to people and go, you need to unplug that, because you're creating an energy source there, and that could actually start a fire. Oh, yeah, no, it only gets warm a wee bit. It's not too bad. I says, well, you're lucky at this stage because they do get damn hot. So housekeeping is easy enough to go around and have a bit of a check. That oil-filled heater that's there was actually sitting on top of an electrical cable. It was backed up against it, so it was heating that cable up as well, and it had 5 plugs coming out of a wall. So again, until you explain why and how that can affect you going forward and how it can create a fire to the business, and then if the business burns down, then what happens to our employment. So you go through that process and talk to people. This one here, there's another electrical current on one of our crushers. I like to tell stories. So come up to this one here, and that door was open like that. So I spoke to the guy and said, why do you have to have that open? He says, oh, damn bloody machine keeps on cutting out. The motor goes out on overload all the time. So I've actually got to go in there and push the isolating switch. So I said, well, why do we know the reason why the motor's breaking out? He says, no, I wouldn't have a clue. We just drop a lot of rock on it, and the whole thing stops, and the conveyor stops moving. So I go along there, I let the motor cool down, and then I push it again and start it up. Simple thing to do is to get an electrician and then go, well, why is this stalling? Why is it going out in overload? And then I was looking up there, and there's these bits of wood and twigs in the bottom of the electrical cabinet. And when I says, oh, when do you actually reset that, what do you do? He says, oh, I used to use that finger, but I got electrocuted with that finger, so now I just use this finger. And I only use the little finger on 2 of those there because there's no wires poking out there, and I know I can get away with it. So what are the twigs of wood for? Oh, they're insulator. So if I go onto this one here, I grab this little twig of wood and I push it that way. I says, geez, you're taking your life at risk here. I don't want to have to go and talk to your family and tell you poked a twig in an electrical current and you killed yourself. Because a little twig like that isn't going to protect you. So we go through there and we talk to guys like that. There's another photograph there on the right-hand side. That's in a switchboard there, and there's a hole there, and the water came in through the rain and actually blew into the electrical cable. So again, we're asking our people to work with that. So we go through that and fix all these things up. So these are just little things that I find out there sometimes, and it's little because we haven't killed anybody. Let's get them fixed, spend the money up, get people in that know what they're doing, get the professionals in. Because like Peter was saying, you can't see the current, you can hear it, you can smell it when things start to get hot, but then by the time you pull something out or touch something, it's just too late. And you'll end up with either a fried hand, fried body, or there'll be another funeral in a way. Here's another one with housekeeping. This is under, believe it or not, this is one of our sites up north. This is a bitumen container. So if you work with bitumen, it's got cutback in it and diesel and everything else in there. That's just a bomb waiting to go off. And those cables were hanging around all over the floor. They were exposed to the bitumen. There's fumes coming out through there. There was no isolating switches there whatsoever. So again, just visual checks can go along and find these things, and you can go along and give advice to actually help people to say, you need to fix this up, let's spend some money. Here's a quarry up in the North Island again. You've got electrical cables through the water. You go up and talk to the guys. Yeah, she'll be right. It's through an RCA. You won't get electrocuted. Yes, you will. Because say that cable hasn't been tagged or tested and it's been split or it's exposed to wires and your people go walking through that water, who are you going to electrocute? You might have the public coming on site to have a talk to you. You might have WorkSafe arriving on site to come and have a talk to you, and that person walks through the water with electrical current running through it. Because we've got to look after our members of our public. Subcontractors are our responsibility. So if we see this sort of stuff, we've got to start getting it fixed up and getting it done correctly. So that's some of the bad and the ugly out there that we've had to deal with when we started doing our audits around the place. And when we started looking at that also, we thought, well, hell, you can't go around looking at these sorts of things. You're not an electrician. Let's hire an electrician and get him to help walk around and have a look at these things. So we've actually invested some money in an electrician to tell us and show us what is the right way to do things and what is the safest way to do things. There's another picture. You've got a cord coming out of the three-phase there. Bit of Kiwi ingenuity there. We ran across the yard. What we'll do is we'll dig a hole and we'll bury it into the ground. There's no cable. There's just the cable through there. It's not going through anything else. So if we were to grab a shovel and start digging around the place, we could certainly go through that in a hurry and someone will get electrocuted. These are other things that we're faced with every day. We've got underground cables. We've got 11 kVs going through there. You've got above ground cables, because we have truck decks that are up. We're spreading material, spreading asphalt around the place. So unfortunately, we hit the above ground quite regularly. So that annoys everybody else as well. Not only are we putting our people at risk, we're pulling cables down and knocking people's power out. So that's the public that are upset. We've got the energy, the Orion coming around saying, you've pulled another one down, we're going to have to fix it again. So we make mistakes. We pulled down 11 kV wire just before Christmas last year. That was pulled down with an excavator. And that ignited the whole hedge, and we put a whole hedge down. But when you go through the process and do the investigation, that was our mistake. That was management's responsibility, because we put so much pressure on a department manager. And this poor guy, it was 2 days before our Christmas shutdown. He was going back to Ireland to see his family, so he was thinking about catching on a plane 24 hours. He had a hole to fill in. He was pressured unbelievably by our management and said, you need to get the job done. He grabbed a subcontractor, filled the hole in, and pulled 11 kV down. That went across the excavator, and the guy lived, but it burnt down a hedge. We had to wait the fire department to arrive and the power company to come down and shut 11 kV down. That could have gone horribly wrong. The guy in the excavator could have died, and the 4 people standing around the excavator could have died as well through current. So we put pressure on our people. We shouldn't do that. We should actually ask and make sure we man our people correctly and give them the tools and the equipment to be able to do the job safely. 11 kVs, yep, we hit those on occasion as well. Because of the earthquake, we're meant to be so many metres down under the ground, the earthquake's pushed everything up. So we've got cables all over the place crossing over, and cables that should be at least 600 deep are sometimes only 100 deep, because the earthquake's pushed it right up, or underneath the asphalt. And when we lift a piece of asphalt up, we've got a current going through it. So we go along and we do things, and we go along and give them, let's give you insulated hand tools, for instance. That might help. That's an easy way around it. But let's manage the situation to prevent the power and people getting killed. There's another picture. That's an electrical cable. That's a cabinet. Should we use it for a notice board as well? Even the 2 doors on the top left-hand side have been taken off and put on upside down. So the signs are upside down. So unless you can read upside down, it's pretty hard to understand what's behind the cabinet. So yeah, that's another thing there. That's a bad one. It's an electrical door, it's an electrical cabinet. Don't use it as a safety notice board or a notice board of any sort. Keep it the way it is. Respect it. So here goes some of the good stuff. So we spent a lot of time, we've upgraded a lot of our electrical cabinets. We've probably spent over $200,000 in one area alone just on electrical cabinets and upgrading. Instead of having your cables run along the ground, you could hook them up on things. So they're off the ground, so forklifts don't run over them, people don't walk over them and stuff, and we drop things on them. You can run them through the multi-plug, hook them off the ceiling. You can buy those hooks easily out of the market and utilise those. Keep them off the ground, keep them out of water. Even up the top there, you've got the tags on through there. You've got your tag testing guys through there. They must see some horror stories sometimes when they're going through and testing things. And then people come to me and say, why do I need to test this every 6 months? What a waste of money. It's a waste of money. Why is it a waste of money? It's not a waste of money because we're saving people's lives. We're saving people from getting burnt. And you shouldn't rely on it every 6 months or every 12 months, whatever the regulations are nowadays. You should be checking them every time you take it out. When you unroll it, have a look at it. Make sure it's not been damaged. Because we've got a lot of people working for us, a lot of subcontractors that could go along and damage something and hide it and put it away. Because it's going to save me $30, so I have to buy another one. $30 is cheap. Wait till you get a $30,000 or $130,000 fine. That $30 looks cheap. And not only that, you haven't got everything else to go with that when you've electrocuted someone real bad. So don't think of cost. Think of it as an investment. $30 is an investment to keep someone safe. Okay, buying these things is an investment. It's not a cost overall. Here's some other pictures. They're hanging them up through there. Unfortunately, we had WorkSafe visited one of our sites in the city centre there, and they came through and found a lot of stuff that wasn't right. So they gave us an incentive. They gave us an improvement notice. That's pretty much an incentive to get things done, isn't it? But it shouldn't have to wait for that. our manager in that area should have picked up all this before he actually went along and got told to do it by an outside agency. You're not living what you're saying, you're not doing what you're preaching, you're not walking the talk. So get out there and get it fixed up yourself. There's more there, we've got them tied up, you can buy those again. It doesn't take long to do that. Housekeeping is the way to go. If you've got good housekeeping, you're going to have good safety practices. If you've got good safety practices, your quality. And again, safety is an investment. You get that right, you're going to make more profit, which keeps your business going, which keeps everyone else employed. Think of it that way. So we've got other things we put out to our people. We design safety essentials. We've got all that information. We've got a lot of pictures that we get out to their guys. And because their guys are coming straight at the coalface, they need to understand without having to read a 10-page book or a brochure. They can look at that and go, yep, I can follow that. I can understand what I need to do. We've got overhead line wires there, what we need to do for close proximity, applying for those permits. What do we need to do to be able to get those sort of things done? So again, we've got the 4-metre rule. Now just pictures make things so much easier with less words. Underground services, this is what they look like. This is what the colours mean when you start going in through there. And by the way, there might not just be electricity there, there could be a gas pipe going through the middle of that. So make sure you know what you're looking at and what you're working with. You can use insulated tools. Again, all you're doing is minimising the risk there. And you're better off actually locating where all the wires are, checking out where things are, and making sure you don't hit them is the easiest way really. And pre-planning whatever job you do. Not even in construction. You're building a house, pre-plan what you're doing. The housekeeping around a building site. Yeah, sometimes I walk through there because we're laying the drainage and the sewage through there, and you see things that you think, oh, hell. So you approach people and you go up and think, hey, look, that there that looks a bit dangerous. Do you think you need to pick that up and hook it up or do something? Back in the old days, you used to get the one-finger salute. Off you go. You don't work for me. Who the hell are you? Now people are going, oh, yeah, shit, I didn't even think of that. Thanks for pointing it out. I'll pick it up and hang it up. So that's how safety's changed. So for everybody, I think it's really great. So we talk about excavation close there. You know, excavators, we do hit wires from that. You can get fairly close there and get arcing coming through. That happens not regularly now, thank goodness, because our people understand what it's about. Sometimes when our transporters pick up a paver or something like that, they forget to drop the roof down. And then you will get that arcing situation, and we had that once last year where it arced on one of our machines. Didn't do damage to the actual electrical wire, but it burnt out one of our pavers, and there was a $60,000 rewire job to be done. So these things happen, and they do cost money that way. Hydrovacing is a new system that's come into Canterbury recently. We'll try and hydrovac everything we do now. The cost of it is expensive. We've had to wear the cost on a couple of jobs that we've had to do. It was that risky, we didn't realise how much the cables were underneath through there. And we had to carry the can of 60k to actually hydrovac that, but it was a 60k investment and no one got injured for that process. So hydrovacing is a bloody good way of identifying where cables are and actually where you need to go and where you need to dig and where not to dig as well. And we have our golden rules, so we put line in the sand. Guys understand what's going on through there, so it's permits for work for everything that we do when it comes to electricity, and checking things out and risk rating everything. So the risk rating is the way to do it. Educating your people when the new Act comes through in April on risk management. Bloody important your guys understand what risk is all about and how to measure it, how to get up to the risk scores and work out exactly what needs to be done. And that's a focus that you really need to do going forward. Resources, there's heaps of information there. I'm part of the safety charter as well. You know, we've got a lot of stuff coming out through there now, working on what to do with electricity, where to find all those processes, where to find the information and stuff like that. If you're not a member of the charter, you know, certainly recommend that you do join that because there is information there for the small subcontractor. We've developed a lot of processes, fatigue management's on there, the whole thing. But electrical stuff, yep, it's getting more in there, so that's an area where you can go. Safety culture is how the organisation behaves when you're not watching. So that's when you go on site and you walk away and you get that feeling, do I need to look behind me? Is he doing what he said looks like he was doing? If you can walk away without having the feeling to have a look behind your shoulder, you got the right culture out there. If you walk up there and all of a sudden all the bloody safety glasses come shooting down and hard hats come on, you haven't got a culture that's working for you. But if you can walk away and not look behind you, you got a gut feeling going, actually, that's not too bad. Looks bloody good. Because to me, it is important because of these guys. There's no two ways about it. Don't put yourself through misery. Follow the processes. Find your cables. Learn about electricity. Because if we get it wrong, that's where someone will end up. And you've got to live with that for the rest of your life if something goes wrong. That's me done.